Hello, everyone,
Hello,
and
everyone.
welcome to the first stream on the new F1 channel, Hit the Apex. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined by Omondi. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Welcome to the debut show, and
Yeah.
after the debut weekend, hopefully it's just exciting, man.
Yeah. We'll get straight to it then. The Bahrain Grand Prix on Sunday. What was your thoughts on it, Omondi?
Well, like I say, I'm still learning. When it comes to F1, I can't pretend to be a scholar or anything like that. That's why I come to school here to learn a little bit. But yeah, I think it's one of them sports F1 where, like cricket, that there's so much depth to it, and there's so many conversations you can have in it. That's why I sort of tune in hours before, listen to the build up, listen to what's going on, and all the technical stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's really deep. And I advise anyone who looks at it and says, I can't watch that, to really get into it. Because for me personally, I really enjoy it now. I enjoy learning about it, and I think it's a great sport. After what we saw last season, the climax to the season, it shows it can be exciting as well. And we're seeing it this season. Obviously, they've made adaptations to the car, make it to make it more racy, and we saw that, I think, especially with the front two going head to head, back and forth for a couple of laps. That was just a demonstration of what's to come, I think, for the rest of the season. And obviously, at the end of the race, there's a bit of drama as well. So overall, all the fans should be really happy with the first race of the season.
Yeah. We'll look back at the practice sessions then, starting with FP1, of course. Gasly topped the timing sheets in this session, followed by the two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. They're looking extremely quick at the start of the season. George Russell, then Verstappen, Lance Stroll, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, Sergio Perez, Guan Yu Zhou, Esteban Ocon, Nicholas Latifi, Nico Hulkenberg, Alex Albon, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, both McLarens that down there. They're struggling at the start of the season. Mick Schumacher, Kevin Magnussen, with Valtteri Bottas at the moment at the bottom of FP1. Do you pay much attention to the practice sessions, Omondi?
I do. I'm starting to. It's like what you can gauge from it. Obviously, it depends. People don't always want to show their card. So even though who was at the top there, Gasly, top.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the graphics what you put about what tires he used and the thing. So it's obviously clearly people, because that wasn't a true form of what ended up with the qualifying. So even though the Ferraris were up there. And then we had George Russell as well running fast. So it looked like Lewis maybe was just testing things out. Practice is what practice is all about. It's like a rehearsal to see how you can run different corners, different, how you're going to take the bends, little run-ins, that kind of thing. So it's really important during the practice, I believe, not to worry about pace or times, but to worry about improving and areas of concern and just going through the motions a lot of times. So I don't think the times really demonstrate anything. Especially with here, because that wasn't how the race started, was it?
No, definitely not. We'll look at FP2 then. It's slightly different again. Verstappen at the top with the two Ferraris, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and then George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, Mick Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly down in 13th in this session from the top. Yuki Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou, Lance Stroll, Nico Hulkenberg, Daniel Ricciardo, Nicholas Latifi, and Alex Albon. There's a few differences there, but you can kind of form the two Ferraris up there in second and third again. Verstappen up there, George Russell as well. What was your thoughts on this, Omondi?
Well, Norris has left Ricciardo there. He's gone up to 11th, and Ricciardo's still struggling right at the back. And obviously, we saw in the race as well, they didn't start in 11th. They started towards the back again. I think what's going on with Ricciardo, man, I don't know. We discussed this last season and during the break as well, whether we're seeing improvements. McLaren was supposed to be sort of on the up, but at the moment they're struggling, aren't they? Max had a good time there. I think the first practice was 1:34, seconds. This time, Max got it down to 1:31, and that's a big difference, So now we're building up, getting closer to sort of real race pace. And the Ferraris definitely, at this stage, you would have said the Ferraris are looking good. And it wasn't a myth anymore. Coming after the 2 practice sessions, they're both up there, and they're showing their cars. They're trying to show how strong they really were.
Yeah. And finally, for the last practice session, FP3, you can see some similarities again. Verstappen at the top, then Leclerc, Perez, Russell, Sainz drops to 5th, Hamilton, Magnussen, Bottas, Guan Yu Zhou, Stroll, Norris, Hulkenberg, Gasly in 13th again, Schumacher, Ricciardo, Alonso, Albon, Ocon, Latifi, and then Tsunoda, who didn't do a lap in FP3, which is surprising. You'd expect, with it being in the morning before, of course, qualifying, you'd expect some Tsunoda to maybe do a qualifying run, unless it was all down to Gasly. But even so, he's down in 13th, so it wouldn't have been a very productive session for AlphaTauri in that one, would it?
No, certainly not. Do you know the reason why they didn't get any laps?
No idea. I'm not sure, to be honest.
One thing that stood out there for me is Magnussen. I think he's in 7th place there.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have been able to gauge at that point that he would have done well in qualifying, but that's his return to F1. He's certainly in the mix.
Yeah. And then on to qualifying then. The starting grid looked like this. It was Leclerc on pole with Verstappen, Sainz, then Perez, Hamilton, Bottas, Magnussen, Alonso, Russell, Gasly, Ocon, Schumacher, Norris, Albon, Guan Yu Zhou, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. As you can see there, Daniel Ricciardo struggling once again for McLaren, getting knocked out in Q1. That is very poor for them, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. Really disappointing. I don't know. Maybe we need to do a show on what's going wrong there. But once again, Magnussen and the new guy, Shu, the big distance between them. I think Magnussen started 6th, did he? And then Shu came in at 15th, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Schumacher was 12, Magnussen 7th. So it's.
Sorry, Bottas. I'm talking about Bottas and Shu.
Oh, Bottas.
Yeah,
Bottas
that was a big. Yeah, for the 2
6th
same
and
cars.
15th. Yeah. 6th
So
and
6th and
15th
15th is that's a vast difference, and obviously Zhu is there's a lot of eyes on him this year because he's new to the game, new to F1. And Magson's an old boy. He's been chucked back in the car again, and he's outperformed him really quite badly there. I think there'll be a lot of. I'll be watching Zhu because obviously he's the big name, old China behind him. Be interesting to see how he performs, and that wasn't a good start for qualifying, And also looking at George Russell as well, it's interesting with Mercedes. I don't know what sort of season they're going to have. Obviously, they need to fix a few things. Talking about, was it the suspension or it was kind of bumpy? It wasn't.
Yeah. The heads bouncing on the straights.
Okay, so obviously that's a big concern for them at the moment. But they're in the mix. They're kind of in the mix still, so you can't complain really.
Yeah. And we've got a stat here. So, of course, Bahrain started last season as well as this one. Red Bull. So, looking at this season, Ferrari were of course on pole. Their best position was 4th in qualifying last season. Red Bull from 1st to 2nd. Mercedes from 2nd to 5th. Alfa Romeo from 12th up to 6th. Then you've got Haas, who came from 19th to 7th. Alpine from 9th to 8th. AlphaTauri dropped from 5th to 10th. McLaren with 6th to 13th. Williams from 15th to 14th. And Aston Martin from 10th to 17th. This shows some teams it's not benefited them with the regulation changes, and some teams it has, the likes of Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, and Haas. What's your thoughts on that, Omondi?
This is, I mean, look, I know it's only the first race, and like we said with Mercedes, teams have to sort of adapt. And you'd think they'd had all like 2-3 years now to knowing that these changes would be coming in. So it's really interesting to see the Ferrari engines up there in the top of the grid. I think there was a stat out of the top 10, maybe 6 or 7 of them were Ferrari engines or something, was it?
Yeah,
something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of catching up to do, and this is the part of the racing as well that I really do enjoy is like the development stage. Even throughout the season, you can develop cars, you know. So there's going to be a lot of changes, I think. And I don't know. I was going to ask you because I've got so many questions for you, Charlie, after the first race, if you don't mind. And I was going to ask you, so with Ferrari clearly looking obviously dominant in the first race day, what factors do you think that made them so good? Is it their drivers, 2 drivers good? Is it are they much better than Red Bull at the moment? And also, do you think Mercedes and maybe another construction car could come back into it? Do you think it's quite close between teams? It's not as massive gap as we see.
Yeah, well, you saw some from that graphic there. Some teams have benefited from these regulation changes. The likes of Haas, who have got more points from this race than they have from the last 2 seasons before. Before this one. Same with Alfa Romeo. I think they've upgraded their drivers as well. Alfa Romeo with Raikkonen, of course, a former world champion, but Giovinazzi wasn't great. Guan Yu Zhou can bring in that money, and he's shown some potential in that race from P15 to P10. Bottas up in 6th, so I think they got their best result in that race since 2019. I think was the start, so it's benefited them as well. So, of course, it don't mean much after one race, but I think maybe check after race 3 or maybe even race 4 to see who will be up there in the constructors and the drivers' standings. But my early prediction is Ferrari will win the constructors with I believe it's between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen for the title at the moment after one race anyway.
That's easy to say, but do you see Mercedes coming back into it at all?
Well,
they were
their reliability.
Sorted, yeah. Reliability, wouldn't it? Reliability.
Well, Red Bull, you saw at the end of the race, they had 2 engine issues, so no points for them. That's basically a race gone out of the 23, I think it is this season. And Ferrari got maximum points with Leclerc finishing 1st, Sainz 2nd, and Leclerc got the fastest lap as well. So that's the maximum 44 points there. So yeah, I think it's between at the moment Ferrari and Red Bull, but I would not be surprised if Mercedes shoot up the constructors' standings.
Cool.
Yeah. So we'll look at the race result then. So it was a Ferrari 1-2, of course, with Leclerc and Sainz, Hamilton and Russell in 3rd and 4th, Magnussen in 5th, Bottas 6th.
Well done, Magnussen. Well done.
Yeah, well done, K-Mag. Mazepin was never going to get P5, let's be honest. He would have been down there with the likes of Nico Hulkenberg in 17th. So it's the right decision. Of course, what's going on in Russia at the minute isn't good, of course. And Uralkali, who were a part of Haas, a name sponsor that was in Haas's name, of course. Uralkali Haas F1 team, they're to do with it as well. So it makes complete sense why Mazepin was dropped, and of course, new livery, new name, everything really for Haas before the start of the season. So it would have been a stressful couple of weeks, but it's gone to pay off for them. P5 is a great result. Bottas was P6, Ocon 7th, Tsunoda in 8th, Alonso 9th, Guan Yu Zhou got his first ever F1 point in 10th, Schumacher 11th, Stroll in 12th, Albon 13th, Ricciardo 14th, Norris in 15th, Latifi in 16th, Hulkenberg in 17th, both Red Bulls in Perez and Verstappen DNF'd. with a Gasly DNF as well. What was your thoughts on the race then, Omondi?
Wow. All right. So the start, I thought I was watching Lewis Hamilton. He got a good start. He got ahead. Didn't he get ahead of Perez?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, I think he got ahead of Perez. So he started in fifth, jumped Perez, got into fourth, and then up top it remained the same, I think. And then so it was it was Leclerc,
Leclerc,
Max, and Sainz, and
yeah,
then so obviously the only change initially was Hamilton up front. I'm talking, and
yeah,
Magnussen dropped back a bit, didn't he? He dropped back a bit from the
yeah,
start,
yeah,
start, and Bottas was up there. And
yeah,
then obviously we saw the pace of the Ferrari of Perez overtake Hamilton on the track after once the DNF set in.
mm,
Hamilton pitted early. He complained about pitting early, didn't he? He said, "Well, he
yeah,
asked the question: Did we really need to pit this early?" And obviously had to go long. He came out in a bit of traffic and worked his way back in and started to overtake. But it was clear they couldn't match the Ferraris and the Red Bull on the day. It's funny how like I'm always looking for Hamilton.
yeah,
But now it's like when I'm watching the race, I had realized, right, what am I focusing for? I need to start watching the top two and watching, the three. We can't just focus
yeah,
on one guy all the time. And in my mind, I want Hamilton to do well because I think Hamilton, to be honest, Hamilton was a lot of reason why I got into the sport, started to take more interest in the sport. But
yeah,
I think we're at the stage now where there's like a turnover, a crossover of talent, and we start to see these two, Leclerc and Max, and maybe Science and these other guys start to step up, and it's their opportunity to sort of. I think it's open for everyone. Is it going to be the old guard in Hamilton, or is it the new boys? Someone has to step up and take this season on, and it's going to be really interesting to compare the two, how they match up. Because Hamilton, I don't think is going to give it up just yet. But as regards to the race, once once Max got in the slipstream of the Ferrari up top, they went back and forth. That was really exciting, and it's ironic, really, is it because he got him on the straight, and then the Ferrari would get in behind and take over again, and that could have continued for lap after lap. But then I heard from the commentary that they were saying, well, Max can't continue to do this because and he ended up sort of flat tiring his wheel, didn't he? At one point, he
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
blew out. So yeah, he had to sort of be content with sort of sitting behind. But that showed you the great driving for one. I thought that was really unique of them. They did this a couple of seasons ago, didn't they, with Max and Leclerc
yeah,
going back and forth like that. Really exciting racing. So that was really unique. I enjoyed that. And then obviously, so the first pit stops after that, some people were talking about one stop in, and then it got to the point where I think it was Ferrari Science, was it? I can't remember.
yeah,
But there was a question about maybe they can do a free stop, but clearly it was like one stop was the quickest way around the course. Obviously, things change, and I thought overall it was an engaging race. My interest, I was fully switched on. I didn't switch off at all throughout the whole race because I just wanted to take in as much information as I could, and I really enjoyed it. To be fair, it wasn't just a procession. It was actually, obviously, when it got to the end of the race as well, when the Red Bull started to fail, that was exciting as well to see. Oh my gosh, because Lewis was coming back, and I don't think Lewis was fighting with Sainz. I think it was. No, Lewis was fighting with Perez at the end of the
yeah,
race.
yeah, yeah,
And you think, oh, maybe can he catch him? Can he catch him? I don't think he would have taken him, to be fair, if it wasn't for the fault, the engine failure. And it was, just that the ending of the race was exciting as well. So I think sometimes when you watch the highlights, you watch the start, a little bit of the middle bit of the race, and the end of the race. But the whole race for me was engaging, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm really looking forward to the next few races just to see who starts to step up. And so there's so many things to talk about. Constructors wise, who are Mercedes going to get back into it? Are another team going to be a surprise? Also the drivers. Are we going to see some amazing drivers or some drivers outperforming the cars like we're seeing with the new guys, the people taking the debuts, that kind of thing? So there's so many sort of talking factors about this F1 season. What about
Yeah.
yourself? What do you think about the race?
Yeah, well, that battle between Verstappen and Leclerc summed it up really with the regulation changes, more wheel to wheel racing. And if you did notice, Leclerc was braking slightly early into turn one. So Verstappen overtook him, but then he had the DRS straight where he'd get him back. I think that happened 2 or 3 times in a row, and Verstappen was falling for it every time. So it was quite clever from Leclerc, really, there. Hamilton was got a very unlikely podium, but a podium's a podium at the end of the day, and he broke a record with that. We'll be looking at that later. I think that is the most seasons in a row that a driver's got a podium now after
Wow.
after Hamilton got that one in Bahrain. So we'll look at each driver's fastest lap throughout the race. Leclerc went fastest with a 1:34.6. Verstappen got a 1:35.4. Sainz with a 1:35.7. Sergio Perez with a 1:36.1. Hamilton and Russell 1:36.2, 1:36.3. Bottas and Magnussen get a 1:36.6. Guan Yu Zhou, Fernando Alonso get a 1:36.7. Mick Schumacher got a 1:37 flat. So did Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda, Ocon, and Lance Stroll got a 1:37.1. Daniel Ricciardo with a 1:37.3, same as Pierre Gasly, with Alex Albon getting a 1:37.4. Nico Hulkenberg with a 1:38.2. And Nicholas Latifi with a 1:38.3. What's your thoughts on this, Omondi?
Just looking at it, yeah. Sorry, can you just go back? Thank you. Yeah, so the Mercedes are really nothing between them. I think the Charles Leclerc, obviously he's out on front and it can go pretty fast. But we saw 1:31 in practice from Max, didn't we? With hardly sort of fuel load or whatever. I expected a bit faster times. I thought they could have got down a bit faster than that. But obviously, this is I think late in the race, you expect them to the fuel load to be down. You expect them to be flying at this point. But when I saw 1:31 from Max in the practice session, yeah, I don't know. Do you know what the track record is for this track?
I can find it if you like.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It says 1:34 from the Ferrari was the fastest.
Yeah, and the the circuit record is a 1:31.4 in 2005 by Pedro de la Rosa.
Wow. I would have said someone else.
Yeah. Big up ORT Racing in the chat. Hope you're well, mate. All we can say is well done to Leclerc and an unreal ending. Yeah, it was. Very dramatic ending, to say the least. We'll have a look at the drivers' standings then. After that, Leclerc and Sainz, top two, 26 and 18 points. Hamilton and Russell, 15 points and 12 points. Magnussen with 10 in fifth. Bottas with 8, with Ocon, Tsunoda, Alonso, and Zhou taking up the rest of the points. And then Schumacher, Stroll, Albon, Ricciardo, Norris, Latifi, Hulkenberg, Perez, Verstappen, and Pierre Gasly all got 0 points from the race. What's your thoughts on that, Omondi?
I'm just thinking that point for the fastest lap, it does make a difference, as we saw last season, and it's going to be very interesting to see if you're in a good position, especially out front. I think especially when you're out front, you have to you've got advantage. You don't have any, you're not chasing anyone. I think you have to go for it. You really have to go for it. I don't know. Did he do that right at the end of the race? Just on because I think they changed. Didn't they have a pit stop towards the end when someone crashed out? Didn't they? Or there was a reason why?
Gasly.
Yeah, Gasly. So yeah, I think that point is interesting. It makes things really for strategy and all that. Makes things interesting, and I think every point counts. I mean, looking already, Lewis is 11 points, 12 points off and they will be asking questions, especially since Mercedes been so dominant over the last few years. Questions will be asked on how soon they can sort of close that gap. Because I'm sure if they fix that little problem, they'll be up there. But it's going to be really interesting to see if, because you said they're favourites now after one race, but I've got a funny feeling, Charlie, that there's going to be changes throughout the season. Because I don't think there's much between all these cars. Like maybe the first 5-6 cars, like forget McLaren, but like the Mercedes, the Ferrari, the Red Bull, and throw in another couple of cars there. Could be nothing in between, nothing between them. I can see a lot of different this season. I can see a lot of different race winners.
Yeah, it is. There's potential for that, of course. ORT Racing saying Gunter Steiner was going mental in the garage after Magnussen got P5 and Red Bull in dead last. We'll look at the constructors' standings then. Ferrari at the top with 44, Mercedes with 27, Haas with 10, Alfa Romeo with 9, Alpine with 8, and Alfa Tauri with 4. Aston Martin, Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull, both with 0. What's your thoughts on that, Omondi?
Yep, it's 44 points. Okay, so yeah, 1 and 2. That's great for Ferrari. I think Ferrari, you know what? It's good for Ferrari being back. It's been a long time, hasn't it? And to see that red machine out there again dominating first race, they'd be really confident going into the season. And imagine all the support they're going to get. What if they're, especially now they're on the up? Imagine when you go to Monza and come back to Europe. Imagine that it's going to be crazy. You're going to have the Max fans, you're going to have the Ferrari fans. It's just going to be crazy. So I think Ferrari being on top again is good for the racing. It's good for the sport as well because they're so well known and well loved. I mean, all around the world. So that's a really good sign, and it shows you as well that things change, teams develop, people have their era. Maybe we've come out that era now of the Mercedes dominating. Maybe it's just time for someone to step up and begin a new era of domination or competitiveness where, like we said, we've got 2 cars or 2-3 teams, which would be great. It'd be great if Mercedes got back in the mix with Red Bull and Ferrari and made it a 3-horse race,
Oh, yeah. And we've got a stat here on points per engine supplier. Ferrari with 63, Mercedes with 27, Renault with 8, that's Alpine, and the Red Bull powertrain with 4, that's Red Bull, and Alpha Tauri, of course. So we'll go to the drivers then, starting from the back and work our way up. First of all, Pierre Gasly. He was unlucky in the race. A mini fire in his car. Luckily, everyone was okay. After that happened, of course, the safety car came out, and that became carnage. In practice, he went fastest in FP1, 13th in FP2 and FP3, and he qualified in P in P10. So, what's your thoughts on Gasly's weekend as a whole?
He'd be pleased, wouldn't he, with that good practice time? But yeah, very disappointing with the car overheating like that. I think we're going to see a few problems like that throughout the season while we adjust to, because this is all new to us as well as fans. We adjust to these new settings and what kind of thing will happen. But great with the safety, seeing him get out of the car before it sort of the fire took over. And I noticed as well when the extinguisher was firing away, and it took a while to actually dampen that fire out. I think thank God he got out of the car so quickly. He should be pleased. Obviously, he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot to prove. I think maybe to Red Bull that he should be, should have kept his position in the number 1 team, number 1 car. But he's a good racer, and I think he's exciting going forward. So yeah, he'll be pleased with that.
Yeah. Next up, the world champion, Max Verstappen, of course, DNF'd with an engine issue. He had a problem with steering under the safety car as well. In the practice sessions, starting with FP1, he was in 5th. FP2, he went fastest, and FP3, he went fastest as well. He qualified in P2. and he had a good battle with Charles Leclerc throughout the race as well. What was your thoughts on Verstappen's weekend as a whole, Omondi?
Ended disappointingly. I think even to get no points after being up there for so long, the whole team would be disappointed because both drivers clearly went out. We can say the same from Perez, but Max is dominant, isn't he? He's dominating his teammate. He's proving what a great racer is. He's a world champion now. He's got a lot of confidence, and I don't think he'd be dented too much knowing that his aggression and his motivation he has. He's going to get straight back in there and be even more motivated now to topple these Ferraris and win the next race.
Yeah, definitely. And next up, his teammate, who also DNF, Sergio Perez. He spun it on the final lap, and his car stalled, so he couldn't get going again. In practice, Perez in FP1 he was 10th. In FP2 he was in 7th. FP3 he was in 3rd. He qualified in P4. But of course, DNF'd in the race. What was your thoughts on Sergio Perez weekend as a whole, Omondi?
He's I don't know what his motivation is like. Last season we saw that he was dominated by his teammate. Has he got any ambitions to actually be challenge Max? Is he under orders not to just to be the side man? When you're in sort of that position, you got to ask yourself, what sort of motivation do I have here? And I think when you look at the Ferrari, I think science is proving, he could go for it. Even though Leclerc maybe is a better driver at the moment, but with the same sort of times, when we look at you show me the times that they had, the Ferraris were the fastest times throughout the race. Ferrari's very close together, whereas Perez was a bit off the pace and Max is dominating a bit. So I would like to see Perez step up and win races and really go for it and give them something to think about. So I don't know what his motivation is like. Is he content being the journeyman, second, B racer? I don't know. I'd like to see more from him, to be honest.
Yeah. Next up, the reserve driver for Aston Martin, Nico Hulkenberg, with Sebastian Vettel getting COVID. He couldn't race, of course. So Nico Hulkenberg stepped in. I think it's looking likely he will race in Saudi Arabia for Aston Martin as well. He was 14th in FP1. In FP2, he was down in 17th. And FP3, he was in 12th. He qualified in P17 as well. ORT Racing wasn't a fan of his racing as well. He said Hulkenberg was atrocious. How do you think Hulkenberg did overall this weekend, Omondi?
Well, he's more qualified than me, so yeah. Did he really say that? Oh,
yeah.
I like Nico. I think he's a good driver overall. Yeah, you're more qualified than me. Bloody hell, that's funny. Yeah, I like Nico. I think he's always been a very good, experienced driver. But I want to see Vettel back. And like you said, when we did our vote last year, Vettel's still up there as one of the best. And yeah, we want to see Vettel back in Aston Martin and outperforming it like he did last year.
Yeah, as Daniel Ricciardo would say, Nico Hulkenberg. There we go. You had to sneak it in somewhere, didn't you? Next up is Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. In FP1, he was in 13th. FP2, he was in 19th. And FP3, he was in 19th again. He qualified in P at the back of the grid. So it weren't a great race for him overall. It weren't a great weekend for him overall as well, was it?
Meh, as I say. Meh. Honestly, it's very disappointing. Williams, fix up. Come on, man. You're one of the traditionally good teams. What is going wrong? It's either the car's obviously not good and your drivers aren't the best, to be honest. So, it's very disappointing.
Yeah. Next up, Lando Norris in the McLaren. It's surprising to be talking about him this early, to be honest. They should be up there at least in the points. In practice then, starting with FP1, Norris was in 16th FP2. He was in 11th FP3. He was in 11th again. He qualified in 13th. And it says here he got lapped up before we even reached the halfway point of the race in the McLaren. It's not been a great start for the team and himself, has it?
Are you telling me Ricardo beat him?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, it's been bad, but that's bad for Norris then because he's been one step ahead of Ricardo. Yeah, really bad. That's all I can say at the moment. Step up, McLaren. Step up, Williams. Come on, sort it out. What is going wrong with these teams? Top drivers as well. I like Norris and Ricardo. Would love to see them up there challenging.
Yeah, and of course they got a 1-2 in Monza last season, and it looks like that's not happening at any point in the future again, is it? Let's be honest.
Oh no.
So we'll move on to his teammate then, Daniel Ricciardo, who actually finished above Norris. ORT Racing has said here he likes Norris, but his performance was disappointing, and he says McLaren were so poor and they also need to improve. We'll look at Daniel Ricciardo then. In FP1, he was 17th. FP2, he was in 18th. And FP3, he was in 15th. He qualified in P18 as well. So it's not a great weekend for him, is it?
I'm waiting for the real Daniel Ricciardo to please step up. What is going on? I mean, in his days at Red Bull, he was a dangerous driver. And you always felt, given a good car, he could be up there challenging.
Yeah.
He's not a side man to anybody. I don't think he should be the number one man in the team, and he's letting Norris take that spot at the moment. I don't know what it is. Last year, I excused him because I thought to myself, well, maybe the car's not suited for him. He'd sort that out. I'm still waiting to see. I'm still giving them an opportunity to step up. It's not been happening for a while, but I like Daniel Ricciardo as a person, and as a racer, I like him even more. So I want to see more from him.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, the man who returned to F1 after a year out of the sport, Alex Albon, in the Williams. In FP1, he was in FP1 he was in 15th. FP2 he was at the back in P20, and FP3 he was in 17th. He qualified in P14 and finished the race in P13. So his best result at the weekend was in the actual race. So it improved slightly over the weekend, but nothing impressive really for Alex Albon.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all there. I think he's beat his teammate by quite a bit. I think by 2 places, or 3 places. But still, yeah, welcome back. I mean, I think, yeah, he's like when people coming back, they've got a lot of desire to do well, and I think hopefully he'll be the number one driver. It looks like he'll be the number one driver at Williams over his teammate. He's got experience. Let's see how it goes. I just want the performance of the cars need to step up. They need to step up big time, and give these drivers an opportunity. So big up Albon, welcome back. It's good to have him on the grid again.
Yeah, ORT Racing says Albon did all right. So not much really. No points on the board, but of course, not as bad as some Williams results were last season, especially near the start of the season. Next up then is Lance Stroll. In FP1, he was in FP1, he was up in 6th. FP2, he was in 16th. And FP3, he was in 10th. He qualified in P19 and finished the race in P12. So, what was your thoughts on Lance Stroll's weekend as a whole on Monday?
He should be pleased. I mean, with his ending result, finishing P12. I want to see him and Vettel
Yeah.
back in. Those two together, I'll be interested to see how they fare against each other. I think Vettel might have the edge on him, and I think they can get into the points most races if they're really on their game. Good performance under circumstances. I didn't, because obviously at the back of the grid, I didn't see much of them during the race, but all I can base it on is the final performance, final standing, and 12th place is not bad. It shows they can work towards getting points in the next races.
Yeah, yeah. Next up is the Haas, the first Haas we're talking about. I'm surprised it's this late, to be honest, based on last season.
True. Yeah.
Mick Schumacher was in 11th. In FP1, he was in 18th. FP2, he was in where was he? He's gone missing. In FP2, he was 8th. FP3, he was 14th. He qualified P in P12 and finished the race in P11. So, what's your thoughts on Haas's weekend as a whole?
Haas as a whole is good, very good. It makes a world of difference. Regarding Schumacher, obviously we're always looking out for this guy to see if he ever can sort of step up like his pops. This is a good result based on what we saw last season. It's an improvement, isn't it? They should be happy. They should be happy about that. Whatever change they've made is good. It's refreshing to see. I want to see Mick Schumacher in the mix. I want to hear his name. I want to be watching him, getting excited about him in the race. And I think if they continue like this, we start to notice them, but not be known for these wooden spoons at the end of coming last all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, that weren't the main highlight of the weekend, with Magnussen managing to get that P5. But he's tweeted after the Grand Prix, "What a weekend for our team! Let's go." Do you agree with that? Is it a good weekend as a whole for Haas?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at the joy he's displaying there with his reaction. So maybe they know something. Maybe they, after all the testing they've been through, after all the misery they had last season, have been the laughing stock and saying let's all laugh at Haas as we did on the show here. That's a great result, and that's like sticking up to everyone who said anything negative about them. So yeah, fair play. Hope he can back it up.
Yeah. OR2 Racing said Mick Schumacher did good. Of course, he got spun at the start of the race by Esteban Ocon as well. He only lost 2 positions when that happened, so he's done quite well there to get back up to P11. Next up, then we're into the points now. P10 was the debutant Guan Yu Zhou, the Chinese man. In practice, he got P11 in FP1. In FP2, he got 15th. FP3, he got 9th. He qualified in. He qualified. Where did he qualify? Where is he now? He's gone missing. 15th. He qualified and finished the race, of course, in P10. What was your thoughts on Guan Yu Zhou overall?
Take a bow, son. I mean, to get the points in your first debut race, which is kind of unexpected, maybe you might say it's unexpected. Good, very good. You have to watch this guy. He's got so much support, so much backing, and this is like a great start. They would say, I wonder what his quote's like. If I don't know if I can read Chinese like Schumacher's, but if it would be similar to Schumacher saying, "Yes, I'm overexcited. What a great start to my F1 career" in Chinese.
Yeah. ORC Racing says Guan Yu Zhou did very well. The first ever Chinese racer in F1 as well. We do have a tweet from Guan Yu Zhou in English as well, which is quite good to see. He couldn't believe he got in the points, and you can't blame him, to be fair. In his first race in the sport, he got P10. He must be delighted.
Big time. I mean, look, the little emoji as well. It's good to see the tweets like that coming out. It shows the reaction. really well. I mean, these guys really take it seriously, and he thinks of what coming to 1 point, 10th place, and you're going off. But it's all relative, isn't it? Based on your car and how much you're outperforming the car. So yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, ORT Racing also says Guan Yu Zhou had a superb debut. Next up is Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. In practice, starting with FP1, of course, he was P8. FP2, he was he was actually up in 5th. And FP3, he was in 16th. He qualified in P8 and finished the race in P9. So he lost a position in the race. And we got a stat here about Alonso. He qualified in P8, his best qualifying at Bahrain since 2013. That's quite low for him, isn't it, Omondi? P8.
Yeah, you know what? I love Fernando Alonso, and I think this is kind of par performance for him. Maybe look, I think it's down to the car. I think he's like we said, he's one of the best racers out there. So with the car getting points, yeah, that's fair enough. He's made that. That's good performance. But I think with Alonso, he would give it his all, and strategy, racing, all that kind of thing. And sometimes he has to concede to faster cars and try to work, do what's best for Alpine or Alpine, whatever you call him. I like Alonso. I always look out for him. I was watching him during the race, and I realised, this is about par performance for him. He's done well.
Yeah. Next up, then, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri, with, of course, his teammate DNF in. This is quite a big result for them. P9 in FP1. In FP2, he was 14th. FP3, he was in. Tsunoda was in. Oh, in FP3, he didn't run. He didn't do a lap in that one. He qualified in P16. So out in FP1 to get to P8 from 16th. That's gaining 8 places throughout the race. That's very good from him, isn't it?
Like I say, I mean, did he debut last season?
Yeah.
So okay, so he's Japanese, and then we've got a great Chinese racer now. So it's good. We're getting the Asian market involved in F1, getting some good Asian drivers. Only good for the sport. And I think these guys are so diligent and got so much backing that they're going to do well. I think he's a very exciting driver. I saw a good few overtakes last season. And I think if he keeps performing like this, there's only good things to come for him, for Yuki. So Yuki, big up, man. I like him. I'm always keeping my eye out for him since he debuted last year. And that is a great finish for him. And getting in the points like that is really solid.
Yeah. ORT Racing says, good to see Asian racers in F1. And yeah, it definitely is. To have a variety of course, mostly European, and then there's the 2 Asian drivers now, and there's some North American as well, with the 2 Canadians of Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi. So next up is the other Alpine, of course, teammates with Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon in this race, starting with FP1. In FP1, he was 12th. FP2, he was 12th again. And FP3, he was in 18th. He qualified in P11 as well and finished in 7th, of course. He also got the 5-second penalty for the collision against Mick Schumacher. Did you agree with the penalty, Omondi?
Don't know about that. Don't know. I think, look, you want to see consistency, don't you? I don't know. Like I say, I'm not an expert on this, and I just think you got to go by the rules and stick to it. Don't leave things to discretion and thing. So I can't record it too much about the collision or whatever. But Alpine are a force to be reckoned with 2 top drivers. Obviously, Ocon's got more points than Alonso this time around. I like both drivers. I like the team as well. I think it's like an experimental team, something new. I'm supporting them both. I think it's going to be an interesting season with them, and I think they will get amongst the points and maybe 5th, 6th, 7th on the constructors as well. So yeah, I don't know, but regarding the penalty, what you asked me, I'm not qualified to really speak on that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I can see it going both ways, to be honest. I can see why the penalty was given, but I think it's a bit harsh, personally, for a 5-second penalty. Luckily for Ocon, it didn't affect him much because he still got P7 in the P8, sorry, in the race. Next up is Valtteri Bottas, of course, moved teams in the winter to Alfa Romeo. In practice, starting with FP1, he was in at the back. He only did 2 laps in FP1. FP2, he was in 6th. FP3, he was in FP3, he was in 8th. He qualified in P6 and finished the race in P6 as well. So what was your thoughts on Bottas weekend as a whole?
I thought he done well. It's good to see him up there high up in the grid. I think he fell back early, didn't he, at the start of the race?
Yeah.
Did he fall back a bit?
Dropped to 14th.
Yeah, so to come back in and finish, it shows he's outperforming the car. I think he's showing he's got, I think this is a guy who's got a lot to prove as well after being sort of dropped by Mercedes, whether he's dropped or whether he left voluntarily or whatever. He's now showing that he's a top driver. He's won races in the past, and I think he's going to be doing his best to sort of prove to everyone that he's still a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, great to come back from after having such a poor start and really pushing the car to get some high points. They'll be really pleased with him.
Yeah, and there's a stat that I find amazing about Bottas. He got into Q3 for the 102nd time in a row.
Wow.
That's an amazing stat, isn't it?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Into P5 then, and we all know where this is. It's the Haas man, the Danish Viking, Kevin Magnussen, who was in 5th for them. In FP1, he was in 19th. In FP2, he was in FP2, he was in 10th, and FP3, he was in 7th. He qualified in P7 and finished in P5. What a result for Kevin Magnussen.
Driver of the day, in my opinion. Welcome back, Kevin Magnussen. You sound like one of these strong men from Iceland, he's such a great guide. And for him to come back into F1 and do that in a Haas is unbelievable. To see him up there, it was like, really, and to finish where he did in the end, you just have to give the guy credit. He will be skinning teeth. He will be celebrating. The whole team will be happy. I don't know if he got any sort of tweets or anything from him, but I'm sure he'll be saying something like, come on, and who's back, and Viking Force, and we are all powerful. Now, great race. I mean, this is great for the team and great for him to come back like this.
Yeah, well, we've not got a tweet, but we've got the iconic quote from Gunther Steiner saying that was some Viking comeback. What a picture to go with that as well.
That's class, Charlie.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. For Haas. You gotta love it, really. They've been at the back all season.
You certainly do your homework, man. Jesus Christ, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Just a quick going Photoshop, and then saw that on Twitter. So I thought I had to include that. I think it's brilliant. ORT Racing's involved as well. Viking Kevin Magnussen, he says in the chat. We love to see a Haas up there, to be honest, don't we?
It's going to be the running joke. I mean, if they can get in the top 10 every week now, we're going to have to apologise and take it all back for all the cussing we gave them last season.
I'm not apologising. They gave Nikita Mazepin a living, so there's no need to apologise. So
yes.
next up, we go into a team that's definitely up there. Last season, of course, the constructors champions. They're now P3 and P4. George Russell in his first race for Mercedes. In FP1, he was in fourth. FP2, he was in fourth again, and FP3, he was in fourth again. And guess what? He didn't qualify in fourth. He qualified in ninth. But where did he finish? Fourth. So there's a lot of P4s there for George Russell this weekend. What was your thoughts on it?
George, don't be intimidated by your co-driver, Lewis. Lewis is a multiple champion, that's for sure. Go out there, do your best, and make a name for yourself. It's your opportunity. You're just starting out, so just make sure you give it all, and maybe try. You got a car, possibly, that can get you on podiums, can get you winning races, and get beating your teammate as well. So don't get to the stage where you're playing second fiddle to Lewis, as great as he is. You got opportunity here. Seize the day, seize the season, seize the car. George Russell, let's go. Coming from ninth to fourth is awesome. Obviously, you take off 2 for the 2 Red Bulls. That could have been 6th place, maybe. But still, ninth to 6th would have been okay and would have been acceptable based on that. But he needs to start stepping up and get to grips with the new car and just be fearless. Go out there and try his best to sort of, I'm not saying like, give them something to think about. There's a few teams that are in the same mode now. Give them, your team, something to think about, like Perez and Max. Perez, I was saying earlier, give Max something to think about. Give your team something to think about by start stepping up and get closer. They were very close in finishing fastest times, weren't they? George and Lewis. So there's not much between them. So you have to give credit to George for that. It's just now about racing skill and getting himself, positioning himself higher up in the pecking order, and it could be interesting, very interesting now. So big up George Russell.
Yeah. We got a few comments on Magnussen because he seems to be the running joke at the moment. ORT Racing says Magnussen P5, Hasser delighted as well, and he also says what a return for Magnussen, and at least they got rid of Nikita Mazepin. So yeah. So it's a great improvement for Haas overall. At least they weren't out of this race like they were 12 months ago in Bahrain. George Russell actually said after the race, to come away with a P3 and a P4 for the team is extraordinary. Would you agree with that?
Well, when they say things like that, extraordinary, it shows that how far they think they're behind. So that's a big compliment to Mercedes and the drivers as well. So yeah, you'd think that saying that last year or the year before, you'd say, "Oh, God, extraordinary, you on about?" But it shows where they're at, and it shows how well they must have done.
Yeah. Next up then is his teammate, of course, Lewis Hamilton. In FP1, he was 7th. FP2, he was 9th. And FP3, he was 6th. He qualified in 5th and finished on the podium in 3rd. What was your thoughts on Hamilton's race weekend?
It's interesting now to see Hamilton sort of. He's got to be. I felt because he's been such a front runner for the last few seasons, or a long time now. He's never really got involved in the traffic and behind him. Now, as you saw when he came off his pit stop, he was in the traffic, which is something unusual for him. When he's starting the race, he's in a bit of a going to the first corner. He had to be really cautious. He doesn't want to be being too aggressive in this sort of mode. He's at that stage of his season, of his career now, where he has to be more experienced. So you can see him sort of holding back a little bit and not getting caught up in some stupid things where he's going to clip someone, or especially when it's really tight at the start of races, that kind of thing. Hamilton, we're going to have to see a new Hamilton here, a calmer Hamilton. Take your time, understand where you're at with the team and everything else, and you're not going to be the best not the best driver, excuse me, not going to be the best car anymore. So let's see what he's got and how much motivation he's got. It's going to be very interesting watching Hamilton this season.
Yeah, and we've got a few stats on Hamilton. Only the 183rd podium of his career.
And unlikely, it says.
Yeah, unlikely. Only 183. And here's the stat. 6 consecutive years with a podium. Ralph Schumacher 10, David Coulthard 10, Ayrton Senna with 10, Alain Prost with 11, Fernando Alonso, Gerhard Berger, Nigel Mansell all with 12, Sebastian Vettel with 14, Michael Schumacher 15, and Hamilton breaks the record this weekend with 16. And he said after the race, a big congratulations to Ferrari. It was such a difficult race for us. This was really the best result we could have got. Do you agree with that, Omondi?
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. I mean, it's nice for him to give credit to Ferrari. Maybe he's looking the seat. I don't know. No, I'm joking. You know what they do. He wants to go for the best team. But Lewis he's had to really, after what happened last year, at the end of last season, at the last race, the scandal involved, everything like that. He's shown a lot of maturity, I believe, and he's being a bit more poised with what he says. And if he says it's a great race, who knows better than him?
Yeah. ORT Racing says he's glad Hamilton was on the podium. He also said Hamilton struggled a bit in qualifying and first half of the race, but the second half he was phenomenal. He also said he thought Hamilton deserved a P3 finish. He also said, well done to Hamilton. He hopes he does well in the next race, breaking records all the time as well. So, yeah, a lot to say about Lewis Hamilton. Next up, then, Carlos Sainz in P2. In FP1, he was third. FP2, he was third. FP3, he was fifth. Qualified in third and finished in second. A wonderful weekend for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah. Second fiddle. Again, even though they're very close, I think they're pretty close in times, fastest lap, that kind of thing. Oh, no, they weren't very close. I don't think they were very close in the fastest lap. Sainz is a good driver, though. I think he's sort of settling into this sort of, well, he's sort of on the cusp, really, of he's got opportunity this season to be number one and win the Drivers' Championship. One, because he's got a great car, and two, because he's up against his teammate who he can, if he really steps up, where he has to do every single race now, he's got opportunity here to beat him. You know, all it takes for him to beat him in one race, and then, you know, how are they going to position it? I think judging by the pit stops, I remember thinking, Ferrari, they're letting the drivers, they're not really signaling out who's their number one driver. I think they pitted Sainz. I can't remember how it went, but something maybe I remember watching the race. I was thinking, okay, it's not. It got to the point where it's like they wanted to use him because he was in second place to deal with Max. Maybe I think that was the issue, and so I think he's got an opportunity. It's all about, for me now. It's all about the qualifying. Now, if he's got a fast car, they've got the fastest car. Out qualify your teammate, get yourself on pole, get to the first pit stop, and make the decision as you as the number one driver. And then you'll see if you really are the number one driver. That's what I want to see happen now. Qualify first, and the first pit stop, remain ahead, and see how they position you. See what they do to you. Because now I think, are they thinking about Constructor Championship, or are they going to let you guys go out there and race? And I got a feeling they will let them go out and race.
Yeah. ORT Racing says smooth operator for Sainz when he gets a Ferrari 1-2. He also said Sainz could get a win soon, and smooth from Sainz as well. We got a stat here on Carlos Sainz. He's kept his point streak going of 16 consecutive point finishes now, continuing from last season. He tweeted after the race, Ferrari is back. Congrats, everyone. This 1-2 is the perfect reward for the endless job done to recover, and we share our joy with every Tifosi. I didn't feel at home in the car this weekend, but we go again this week. Congrats to Charles, Forza Ferrari. And he also said Ferrari is back. The hard work has paid off. Congratulations to Charles. And I managed to bring the 1-2 back for the team. So yeah. On to the race winner then now. The pole sitter, the race winner. It was dominant by Charles Leclerc this weekend. In FP1 he was second, FP2 he was second, FP3 he was second, qualified, stuck it on pole and won the race as well. As you can see here, on pole with Verstappen second, Sainz in third. He won the race as well and that is his pole position number 10 of his career, with 3 of those being race wins. And it's his and Ferrari's first win since 2019. What was your thoughts on Charles Leclerc's weekend then, Omondi?
If you win the race, you have to be pleased with yourself, don't you? I think he fought really well, especially being under pressure at some points from Max, going back and forth like that. That was the key moment for the race. After that, he maintained his pace, drove really well, very intelligent driver as well. And we're going to start to see now, he can be a legend of the sport if he can go on and we have the momentum from this with the fast car and keep it up with Ferrari without any sort of technical problems with the car. I think they've, like you were saying, they've got an opportunity to win the constructors and at least maybe a drivers' championship, and he's the main man at the moment. So yeah, well done, Charles Leclerc.
Yeah. ORT Racing has said he likes Leclerc and he believes he could be a future world champion. And he also said he should have won in Bahrain in 2019, and what a start to the season as well. He tweeted, "Let's go, first win of the season. So incredibly proud of the whole team for the incredible work produced to get us back to this level. It's only the beginning. It's now time to work harder than ever to stay there." And he also said, "I'm so happy. We could not have hoped for better. The past 2 years have not been easy. It's great to be back on top." So yeah, that's it for the drivers. We'll look back at the teams, starting with Red Bull. They look quick all weekend, but 2 DNFs, 0 points. It's so disappointing for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to move on now. You can't. There's nothing you can say about that. I mean, the drivers, the whole team would be disappointed. They would have got good points. Now they have to. It's all about catch up, even though it's early in the season.
Yeah. 3 career wins as well for Charles Leclerc, says ORT Racing. ORT Racing has actually. So yeah, that's it for Red Bull. Next up, McLaren. We got a bit of a stat here. Qualifying compared to 2021, P6 and P7 for McLaren. In 2022, P13 and P18. They seem to have gone backwards, and it's worrying for McLaren, isn't it, at the moment?
Fix up, guys. That's all I can say. Just fix up.
Yeah,
It's long season. Maybe they can turn it around, but yeah, they need to fix up fast.
Yeah. ORT Racing has said McLaren was so poor. He can remember how bad they were in 2015, 2017, and 2018. And yeah, that's it about McLaren. Next up is Williams. No points for them, but some positive signs with Alex Albon fighting for points at some point in the race. What was your thoughts on Williams' race weekend, Monday?
Look, they need to step up as well. Look, like I keep saying, these traditional good teams, something's not right. I just want to see a bit more competitive. It's like it gets to a stage now where these teams get lapped so easily now. I'd rather see most cars. I thought this season we'd start to see more cars within a second or two of each other. And that's what we want to see. So Williams, step up. Come on. Put the work in, guys, behind the scene.
Yeah, definitely. Next up is Aston Martin with no Sebastian Vettel, Nico Hulkenberg, and Lance Stroll got 0 points for the team. They didn't really do much this weekend, did they?
Bring back the champion. That's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, definitely. Next up is we're just trying to see if we got any comments about about Aston Martin. I don't think we do. Next up is Alpha Tauri, with Sonoda getting 4 points for the team, Gasly getting none with a DNF. What was your thoughts on Alpha Tauri's race weekend, Omondi?
I think if Gasly, I like him as a racer. I think they can get points this year. There's no doubt about that for me. Just a disappointment, yeah, because of the end did not finish.
Yeah, disappointing. Of course. We'll try and go as quick as possible. Next up is Alpine, with 8 points for the team. What was your thoughts on Alpine's weekend on Monday?
Decent, decent. Like I said about Alonso, up to par. It's very decent. So they both got through. Both, I think they both got points, didn't they? Or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I can't complain. I think they've done all right.
Yeah. ORT Racing has said he's not a fan of the 2022 livery. He says it looks like the 2020 Racing Point car. And yeah, basically just complaining at the Alpine livery. Next up is Alfa Romeo. Double point finish for them. Another good weekend for the team.
Yeah, I mean they need to step up, obviously, and build on this points, thing, and try to sort of aim to get points in every, even if it's 10th and 9th, whatever. That's the region they're at. They need to be fighting for, pushing that all the way. And I think that's an achievement for them. So come on, Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Some stats on Alfa Romeo. Bottas finishing in P6. Alfa Romeo's best result since Brazil 2019. Alfa Romeo picked up their first double points finish since 2020, and it's only the fourth time since 2019 they've done that as well. Next up is Haas. What a wonderful weekend for them.
Whoa! Magnussen, as we say. Bring up that graphic again. Yeah, Magnussen back. I mean, yeah, what a great result. Laughing stock, not us anymore now, guys. I think Haas is slowly becoming my favorite team if they continue like this.
Yeah, definitely. ORT Racing with a few comments on Haas as well. A great first race for them, a good race for Alfa Romeo and Haas. P6 and P10 for Alfa Romeo, unbelievable by Haas. At least they got rid of Mazepin. He thought Bottas was fantastic. And yeah, that's it for Haas. A few stats on them. Their best qualifying in P7 since Germany 2019. Their best race finish since Austria 2018 with P5. And same place, same results, same photographer, 6 years apart there. Next up is Mercedes, P3 and P4. Very good result for them.
Yeah, a bit fortunate, obviously, with what happened to Red Bull, but the Mercs need to get back on top. They don't like it where they are, even if they're third in the ranking right now. But yeah, let's see what happens. They've got two great drivers, one ambitious George Russell and one of the best of all time. So come on, Mercedes, let's get back on it and make it competitive.
Yeah. ORT Racing says Russell got P4 despite a poor qualifying. And finally, Ferrari, before we go through driver of the weekend and team of the weekend, Ferrari with a 1-2, it's the perfect weekend for them, isn't it?
Yes. And yeah, just yes and yes. Drivers, well done, 1-2. What more do you want? And the team will be over the moon. I mean, to start the season like this and set your stall out and say, come and get us, boys. The red machine is running again. So yeah, let's go. I like to see Mercedes. I mean, Ferrari on top, and as well as the traditionally other good teams. Let's make it a really good close race.
Yeah. ORT Racing says Ferrari were dominant. Sainz and Leclerc is a lovely lineup. Ferrari versus Mercedes gonna be a great battle, and the great Ferrari master plan. And that is Ferrari taking a 1-2 finish for the first time since Singapore 2019. So a long time since that happened. Next up, I'm gonna ask you for your driver of the weekend. Who are you going to give that to?
Easy. Get the graphic up. It's the Viking. Magnussen. Of course. Can be no one else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the
Who's
team?
yours? Team of the
Magnussen, it's
weekend. I'm
got to
going for
be.
Haas. Haas
Yeah.
for me and Magnussen. For you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Leclerc's up there, but Magnussen to get P5 on his return, superb. And
Yeah.
it's a great result for Haas. So that's it for the first stream on this channel. I must say I've enjoyed it very much. And cheers for coming on Monday. Where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, you can find me on this great on the Apex. Sorry, is that right?
Hit the
On the
apex.
hit the Apex, yeah, and hit the like button, please, guys. This is the best F1 review and preview show of on the social media networks and all the shows out there. Charlie, I'm new to this. Obviously, I'm not experienced enough, but I hold my hands up. I'm just learning on the job. So this is like for me going to school, and I'm learning every week, every time, and every race as well. Really enjoying the season. I hope all you guys are too. Make sure you tune in to Charlie and this great channel. What we're doing, trying to do here is just bring you the best content out there. As you see from the graphics and the information, it's all there. So sometimes, what's the point in watching Sky Sports when you can come on here and get all the info and a laugh as well from our Charlie. So big up, Charlie. Thanks for having me on. I'm from the Man United agenda, as everyone might know. But yeah, I'm flexible. I love coming on here and working with Charlie. And we do other things as well, like top tens and fantasy things like that. So it's all good. It's all good. So make sure you tune in, subscribe, and press that notification bell as well, so you get the ding-a-ling-a-ling when shows are coming on.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Wonderful. I wish that was the actual notification instead of what you normally get. So you can find me here, Hit the Apex on YouTube, this the F1 channel, Dugout Daily, the football channel, at MCFC Hibs on Twitter. And yeah, that is it. And we're very much looking forward to the race this weekend in Jeddah. So yeah, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon. Take care and goodbye for now.